Hey everybody, this podcast is brought to you by Audible. If you'd like to grab a free audiobook and support the podcast at the same time, you can make that happen by going to audibletrial.com/Courtney Diamond. I'm currently listening to The Things You Can See Only When You Slow Down by Heyman Sunim, or that is, I will be listening to that this evening during my flight to Washington. But no matter what you're looking to download, grab it for free by going to audibletrial.com/Courtney Diamond. You spend nothing, you show your support for me, free book, all good. It's linked up in the episode description. Now for this podcast, I sat down to chat with my good friend who just recently married. He's an actor, performer, creative type that has, at least for the current time, swapped it out for delivering mail by the United States Post Office. I should ask him what's been going on with my mail lately, because all of a sudden I'm getting mail from people I've never heard of before, and I've lived here for years. So, I could have asked that, but you know what? It's probably really boring. Glad I didn't. He also co-hosts his own podcast called Life's a Binge. I was on his show a while ago talking about the years I worked at the Comic-Con, and you can check that out by going to my site, CourtneyDiamond.com, and clicking on that podcast page. We talked about a lot of stuff, everything from transitioning to adulthood, trust, and AI robots, to how I've never traveled with just a carry-on until today. I need to go pack. God's help me. So with that, I hope you enjoy this conversation I had with my friend, Jarrod Weintraub. I didn't realize you had vlogged for a year.
I literally vlogged every single day of my life for a year. It was a lot of work.
It's a lot, right? Dang.
And I did that stuff because I'm going to lose my mind unless I do something creative.
Yeah.
And we've been doing the podcast for a while, but then it was a perfect opportunity because our producer left, and I was like, we need somebody to do it. And I was like, hey, I can do that.
Yeah.
And so then I figured it out. Now I'm an, quote, audio engineer, end quote, because I'm not at all.
I knew just enough basics to get myself started.
Yeah.
And then I just did a bunch of research on how do I make a podcast setup that sounds decent, that I can throw in a backpack.
Mm-hmm. And it does.
And I wanted it to feel
like it looks.
like you feel like you're doing something real special.
Right.
Because lav mics sound really good too.
Mm-hmm.
They can sound great. And
yes.
like I was telling you, I just bought some of those for when I go on my trip.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to on Friday. I'm going out to Bellingham, Washington to see. Did you ever listen to the podcast with Alex?
Yes, I've listened to all of them.
Oh, mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go out and fly out to see him.
Nice.
We're gonna drive down to Portland and probably hang out with another one of our old college friends. We haven't seen in a decade. But I was like, well, I got to bring some gear.
Yeah.
It's hilarious though. So I'm traveling with just a carry-on.
Mm-hmm.
Never done that before in my life.
I've
always checked a bag.
Boo.
Because I tend to bring too much stuff.
But you get a carry-on and like a backpack. Like the backpack's the saving grace.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
But as a lady, I'm always worried about everything that I need.
No, it's true. Well, so do you overpack?
Absolutely, I overpack.
Why is that a thing?
Because I don't know what life's going to throw at me. I don't know what's going to... What if I have to go to a ball? What do I have to... That's what happens in my brain, I'm like, what if there's some sort of evening event that I'm not prepared for? Or shoes. Shoes is big.
We were going to the Dominican Republic for our honeymoon. Just got married in November.
Yes, we'll talk about that.
Yeah. And my wife I was like, we're going to the Dominican Republic. We need a nice outfit to go to a nice dinner. And then we need bathing suits. And that's it.
For how long were you there?
10 days.
Okay, see, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how. 10 days? You want to wear the same outfit for 10 days?
No, I had I brought 3 pairs of shorts. I brought a pair of jeans, a bunch of different shirts, and that was about it.
I guess shirts are easy if you're going to a warmer climate.
Yeah, it was 80 degrees and
Okay, I'm going to Washington and Portland. I'm pretty sure the high is in the 40s at that point.
And overnight it's
I'm from San Diego, and my
right.
body doesn't understand cold weather.
That's true.
Yes, I bought a North Face jacket. Do you know why? Because last time when I was in Seattle, when I was there and I podcasted with Alex,
projected temp is -2.
Yeah.
Courtney's prepared.
when I went to Seattle last time, I was walking around the city and literally everyone was wearing a North Face jacket, and I felt so out of place.
Right.
I felt unprepared. I was just wearing 4 layers of jackets because I don't own just a heavy warm or just a warm jacket.
Right.
Because I don't need that stuff very often.
Of course.
So I felt silly.
And now you won't.
So I got myself a real
There you go.
jacket.
There you go. You will not feel silly no longer.
Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. It's pretty hilarious. But yeah, I mean, this setup I think has been working out pretty good for me. But I'm going to work on getting a third mic in so I can do some different types of things here.
It is really cool. Podcasting is so cool to me. I love listening to podcasts now, by the way, because literally I need to listen to something for 8 hours a day or I'll lose my mind. So that's why I listen to every podcast and every audiobook ever.
Yeah. But
so it's like...
But it's such a good use of your time.
It really is.
Because we have a lot of downtime where we're just, walking around, going from place to place, running an errand that's boring. But now I look forward to it a little bit because if I'm driving or if I'm running an errand, I know that I'm listening to an audiobook or I'm getting in all of these podcasts that I like to follow.
Well, and that's what it really does, like, get me through my days, because my days are so, like, the same thing over and over and over again, just like walk, deliver mail, walk, deliver mail, walk, deliver mail. And, like,
Being
I just...
a mailman.
It's the weirdest, isn't it? Isn't it the weirdest?
It's so strange.
My life completely changed in a matter of, like, 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Like...
Do you know what's really cool about that, though? When you feel stuck... You just feel like you're in a rut and you're like, nothing will ever change. Nothing's ever going to happen. But if you stop right now and if you look back on even just a year, you'll go, wow, a whole lot of weird stuff I never would have thought happened.
Right.
This is completely different as long as you're out there, trying to live a little bit. But,
right.
But like things really do change. And sometimes we just don't maintain the perspective to acknowledge it. That's why I like journaling so much. That's why I like the meditation. Because it lets you sit and really take advantage of those moments to realize that you've actually made some progress. What is that transition like for you, though? So let's go back. You were a performer
Yep.
for a very long time.
Yep.
And then you decided to take on the job of a mailman.
Right.
For practicalities of monies and consistency.
And full-time. And
so what's that been like?
I loved my job as a performer. I thought... if there was any job that I could have for the rest of my life, that would have been it, doing that particular job that I had. But it was in a floundering business, and there was no real future there. And I tried consistently to make a future for myself in one way or another, and it just wasn't happening. And, yeah, I needed something that had more full-time, more benefits, more... scheduled structure and all this stuff. And literally I was like looking at government jobs in general just because like that's the jam if you can get it. And I was not expecting the post office to be where I ended up, but they were the first people to like reply and give me an interview, and I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And that's where I am now, carrying mail for the United States Post Office. And people are like, isn't that the weirdest thing? And for me, it's extremely weird. And it was really difficult for a while to grasp, because this is how I like to say it. And it sounds like I'm like totally full of myself. But I went from being a very popular somebody to being a very invisible nobody.
Because the mailman, I mean, I don't know how a lot of people interact with their mailmen, but I don't very much, or you just get like a little bit of a like, nod if you happen to run into them or whatever. I did run into my mailman. Shout out to him. He doesn't listen to this. I ran into him apparently at the local out here in PV. I'm sitting there having a drink, and all of a sudden this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey," and I was like, "Who's this?
Is this your house? Do you live here?" You're like, "Creeper." I
was like, "Hey." He goes, "Oh, you're a mailman." And I was like, "Hey," we like cheersed each other in the bar. So that was actually pretty fun because it was like, oh, look, it's a guy. It's a normal guy.
Right.
But yeah.
Not a weirdo.
So ever since then, I've actually been more conscious to like say hello.
And that's the thing. We get a lot of hellos and how's your day? And when it's hot, there's a million hot enough for yous. And it's like, yeah, same joke every day, which is kind of similar to what I used to get. But it's just weird because like I have no time to do anything performing, and like that was my life forever. Not just as my job, but like even doing community theater or whatever, and like I haven't had a chance to do any of that because it just takes up all my time.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
6 days a week.
Yeah. So when you're at the bottom, you're at the bottom.
They start you at the bottom.
You just work and work and work and work and work all the time. So yeah, 6 days a week usually. Mm-hmm. And they're like, I work from 7:30 in the morning to usually around 6 at night. 6
Dude.
or so. Yeah.
That's too long though.
Isn't it? Isn't it?
That's a long time.
Yeah. It's rough. It's really rough. But, you know, when you're trying to plan weddings and get married and start life, and it's like, okay, that's a good paycheck.
Dude, it's super respectable. Is there anything you like about it?
I like the whole job.
You do?
I do.
Okay.
As far as jobs go, because everyone thinks, and I kind of thought, but not really, but everyone thinks like, oh, it's a great job. It'll be so fun. Just walk around outside and like get my exercise. And
everybody's like, I'm just going to get so many steps in,
and
I'm going to get really
my
tan.
Fitbit will like tell me I'm great.
Oh, you have a Fitbit,
I have
right?
an Apple Watch.
Okay.
Does same
better.
thing.
Okay.
Same
better
thing.
than me.
Woo, woo. Yeah, and so that's what you just see, like, oh, you see your mailman, and you're like, oh, you're just walking down the street. No, that's great. Easy peasy. But then, like, there's, like, all the sorting and, like, all the organization and stuff at the beginning, and then it's just repetitive. But it is, like, it's great. Like, you're outdoors. You have nobody following you around, like, hounding you, like, making sure
isn't that
you're...
the best? Because I hate micromanagement.
Right. And
my soul burns when I feel like I'm being micromanaged.
Right. So you just show up, and you, like... You get your stuff organized how you would like to organize it, mostly, and then load it into your truck, and there you go. And then you come back at the end of the day, and you're like, I got my job done, boss. And they're like, good job.
Nice.
And then you go home, do it again the next day. So
that part's good.
You
get so much podcast time in.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's all I do.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, you should listen to this podcast. I'm like, okay. But I like listening to, like, it's weird. I don't listen to, like, any of the big, like, I don't listen to Joe Rogan or Mark Maron or any, like,
I'm all up in the Joe Rogan life.
I don't listen to any of those guys.
I had a hardcore conversation yesterday about
Joe Rogan.
Yeah. We were talking just about all the issues that he goes over all the time. Which ones do you listen to?
I listen to, like, small indie, like, all the old guys that I used to, like, do podcast stuff with.
Yeah.
Listen to your show. I listen to a show called Nerd on the Podcast that just started. And I listen to a bunch of weird stuff. But, yeah, anything. I listen to, like, the small indie ones, or, like, if I'm bored, I'll just, like, hit browse. I also listen to, like, true crime stuff. So I, like, listen to My Favorite Murder. And there's a new one called Atlanta Monster. That's really good so far.
Atlanta Monster?
Yeah.
I'm really into murder stuff. I was very serious about that. Murder stuff, prison stuff, ghost stuff.
It's very popular right now. And I wonder when that switched. Because, like, shows like Forensic Files have been on for a long time.
Yeah.
And people have watched it, obviously. But now, especially with, like, have you heard My Favorite Murder? Do you know those ladies?
No, and you know what? It's been suggested to me before. I just haven't listened to it.
So they're two ladies, comedians, and they talk... They, like, chit-chat about their lives for a minute, like podcasts do, and then they dive into, like, they basically, like, watch a Forensic Files, and then one of them will tell you, this is the story of John Smith, and this is what happened with him, blah, 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 blah. And then when she's done, the other one will be like, this is the story of, you know, Jane Doe, and this is her story, blah, blah, blah. And all they're doing is literally recounting what they watched or what they read.
Yeah.
But it's so entertaining. And, like, they started a year ago, and now they are selling out arenas legit. And all they
Doing what?
This. This is what they do. What we're doing right now, only there's, like, thousands of people over there watching. Right.
Okay, because we're so fascinated with murder that we just tell me about
it. Yes. Because and it's not weird and taboo to be like, I like serial killers.
Yeah,
and
because do you think we're super desensitized now?
I guess. I don't know what it is, but, like, all of a sudden it's not taboo to be like, I like murder. And you're not, like, rooting for murder to happen.
No, but it's
fascinating. Right. And then you get shows like Mindhunter or Making a Murderer or Manhunt and all these shows that are, like, based on serial killers and stuff. And you're like, what?
Because you feel like people are getting more of the general public is getting interested in how the mind works,
right,
and getting interested in people that are kind of outliers in that sense.
I would like to think that it's because people are becoming more self-aware, and because they're becoming self-aware, they're like, I don't want to be like this crazy person.
Yeah.
So how does that crazy person's mind work?
It's like, how are you wired?
Right.
If we're trying to figure out how we're wired, and you're like, how does that person justify whatever they're doing? Like, it's very interesting to sit there and you watch something that's an interview with a person who is like a serial killer.
Right.
And you listen to the way they talk, and you're like, wow, you're legit not wired like a normal person.
Right.
Something's a little different
Something's
there.
Weird.
Yeah. Which is why I'm interested in watching these prison shows.
Oh, yeah.
For a lot of reasons, but because I think it's interesting to hear it from their mouths.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that a lot of the guys that you hear talking, you go, oh, wow, you were just in a really bad situation.
Right.
You grew up in a really unfortunate situation. Your world was so tiny.
Right.
That seemed like the way that life was.
Right.
But something about you doesn't seem like a bad person. Like, you don't seem awful. It seems like you got into a bad situation, and some of them are remorseful, at least for whatever they're doing.
Correct.
And then you listen to some of them talk, and you watch them, and you go, okay, you're like crazy.
You are a legitimate
You're crazy
psychopath.
and you're violent.
Yeah, you are
and there's
a
a reason you're there.
Right.
And it's funny, just listening to people talk, I think you pick up on the difference.
Yes, I think once you're watching like the prison show, for sure. But like every single time you hear like a serial killer show or whatever, they're like, "Oh, he was so nice and like so personable and charming, and like he was so great, and like that's the reason he got people to go home with him because he was just so nice and charming." And you're like, "Oh."
Sometimes it seems like
because
they
know
connected with narcissism too.
They know in their brain like how to work and manipulate people.
Smart.
They're so smart. It's
I feel like there's this like general push for everybody is more interested in how our minds work.
Right.
And getting control of that and just being curious.
Well, I think it also has to do with the oversaturation of social media. And now that I believe it's starting to like die out. Because like Facebook, when it started, even like MySpace or whatever, we'll stick with Facebook. When Facebook started, it was like very like we can be connected again. We're connected and like, ooh, I found friends from elementary school and my family from like the other side of the country.
Yeah,
and all
which
this
is really exciting.
Right. You're like, ooh, we're connected. This is great. And like somebody would post the legitimate status of like this and that. And now if you scroll through Facebook, it's like, here's a video of a cat, here's a meme, here's a video of a cat, here's a GIF, here's a cat, meme, GIF, meme, video. Like, and then once in a while, it's like, I had a nice dinner today with my friend Stephanie, who I haven't seen in 10 years, and you're like, that's what it's supposed to be.
You remember when it started, and it was like Courtney is, and then you'd fill in the status of what you were currently doing. They were all text posts,
right?
And those are more rare these days.
Oh yeah.
Right? Most of the time, it's just going to be videos.
It's
I
either
barely
videos
ever
or like me promoting like this week on my podcast. Check it out.
And that's what I do for Facebook most of the time.
Of course. And so it's weird because like people are like, Facebook's never going to go away, and I'm like, it already is. Like it's already not what it's
not
supposed to be.
Should. It'd be amazing if there could be some sort of social media that genuinely makes you connect. I don't know how you'd engineer that, but they seem to be trying to tap into our psyches anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like if they could find a way that really makes us be closer when we're interacting.
Well, and that it's kind of like if you had a dating app, but just for friend stuff. Like, but that's not it. You know what I mean? Like, because dating apps, woof. Like, I was listening to you and
you trying to tell me, dude? I'm out here.
I was listening to you and Jenna on that last episode, and I was like, man alive, I am so glad that I was only on the very beginning of that train. And
I've been on the whole train. I've been on the front of the train. I've been in the back of the train.
Lord. Well, and so since you don't necessarily focus on that, but there's usually some aspect of that kind of a thing that you like to talk about and blog about and everything. I don't even remember what it was. I had Plenty of Fish. I had OkCupid, whatever the the early free ones were.
Yeah.
I think I had Tinder for like a minute.
Okay.
But anyway, on my profile, I put, it was like the dorkiest thing you'd ever read in your entire life. Because I made like Harry Potter jokes and like...
Dang, you were like, I'm trying to attract a very certain type of lady here.
Well, not necessarily, but like I took it very seriously, which maybe you're not supposed to. I don't know, because like...
Well, you should. If we all did,
right,
would they not be more effective?
Well, that's what I would like to think. That's why I took it.
If you're trying to genuinely meet somebody to connect with,
I was like, I am going to put out a profile that once you read it, you have a very good idea of who you're going to meet. Because I didn't want to put like the positive, whatever, like all the same bullcrap. I was like, if you find me interesting by reading my profile, obviously you're going to find me interesting in real life because I am a goof. Like,
this is who's going to show up.
There's no way. There's no way around it.
Yeah.
I'm like a weirdo goof. Like I'm an introverted extrovert, if that makes any sense. Like I'd rather sit at home, play video games instead of go out to the bar. But when I'm around people,
I refer to myself as an extroverted introvert.
Right.
I'm a complete introvert.
Yeah.
That can fake extroversion for periods of time.
Right.
Or do that, but I get so tired.
Yeah. No, it's true.
I get so tired. I've told people even after podcasting sometimes, especially if it's somebody I don't know. It's a little different if it's a friend and you're sitting down and you're talking because, you just have more of a relationship. But if it's somebody that I've never met before and I have to sit and I sit here and I talk to them for 2 hours.
Right.
That's something about that is a little bit draining for me and it makes me want to lay down. It's so much like social interaction.
But it's true though. And so like, it's just weird because like I put so much into it. Like I was like, here's who I am. Like this is who I am. If you're interested, you're going to reply back or send a message or whatever. And I think in total from online dating, I went on a total of 2 dates.
Really?
2.
Okay.
2.
For men, it's definitely not as much. How long were you on there?
Probably like a year.
Okay.
But again, I also wasn't really trying to like date. Like,
right. You just put it out there and you're
Right.
trying to see what kind of response you
And
get.
then and it was like a game. It was like, ooh, I'm done playing Words with Friends, and now I'm laying in bed. It's like time to go on OkCupid while I'm alone in my bed in the dark.
Isn't
like,
that kind of the thing too with it? Because like when do you open up the app a lot of times? It's like when you're bored.
right?
You go, oh, I'm bored, so I guess I'll swipe through.
I'm gonna
and
have
it's
some
one
fun
of the
looking at people. I'm gonna have fun judging the shit out of people.
And I've met plenty of people off of these dating apps.
Yeah.
And of course, at some point, one of us is going to ask, like, "Oh, what are you doing on Hinge? What are you doing on Bumble? What are you doing on whatever?" And if the guy says to me, "I was just bored," that's a kind of a quick turnoff for me.
but you're doing the same thing.
But I'm doing the same thing. But if he says to me like, "Oh, I was just bored and I was just like trying it out,"
right?
Because my intent is I would like to meet somebody that I genuinely connect with. Yes. But if he chooses to like use the words like "I was bored" to me, something about that is just like not very. It's not very attractive. I don't know.
It's true.
Oh,
how'd you guys meet? I was bored one day.
I was bored one day and I saw her.
I was like,
she
looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
Swipe. That's how we met. Like, and that's what's weird. Like, there's a lot of very successful online relationships. Technically, like my relationship is kind of online relationship because
I don't know anything about that.
Really?
Yes. We've never really talked about that.
Well, see, I 100% suffered. Well, not suffered. I committed the crime of disappearing off the earth.
The crime. How dare you? Stay on the grid.
Well, not just because of my relationship, but because my relationship, my new job, like all sorts of stuff. Like it was just like, and now I don't see anybody I ever saw ever.
Yeah, when your life changes drastically,
and
what are you going to do?
It's so weird to not. I see like 4 people on the regular, and that's like my brother, and like
yeah,
like I don't see anybody. And maybe it's just because I'm older now. Like 34 isn't old or anything, but like I'm older. I'm married.
But you're like a grown-up man.
Right. It's weird. Like thinking of myself like a grown-up person is bizarre.
Yeah.
Because like even 3-4 years ago, they're like, how old do you feel? I'd be like 22, 23. And like, woo, yeah, I'm party, work. I got a part-time job, this and that. I'm living life, having fun. And then it was like, now I have a full-time real job that works all the time. And now I'm married and like, it's just weird.
Yeah.
Like they're like, how old do you
It's a
feel?
shift.
And I'm like 34.
I feel frickin'
I actually feel 40 sometimes. Like when I come home and I'm like, my back hurts and I'm tired. I'm like in bed at 9. I'm like, who the fuck am I?
Yeah.
Like, it's 9 o'clock and I'm in bed.
That's so crazy. Yeah, I guess you do get more. I get tired a little easier.
Well, it's weird.
We're
Like
talking like we're old people, but I mean, I'm
right.
31. I'm not too far behind you. I had this conversation with my mom and my aunt. We went to Montana a couple years ago, And we're sitting out there on the balcony, we're drinking beers, and we're talking about the fact that I'm about to be 30.
Right.
You know? And I'm like, not stressing about it, but I'm thinking about it at that point. I'm like, dang, I'd be 30. It's just a milestone.
Right.
Being all introspective. And I said, when? Like, when do you feel like you got it all figured out? Or when do you feel like an adult? She's like, I mean, I don't know if you ever feel like you figure it out.
Nope.
And in my head sometimes, I still feel like I could be 20-something. I could be 30.
Well, and like, it's so weird because like I don't feel old by any means. Like
Yeah.
I'm not like I'm old or anything,
No.
but like my lifestyle completely shifted course when it's like I have to wake up at 6 a.m. and
Oh, God.
then I have to, cook dinner when I get home and I got to do this and I prep lunches and it's weird like the whole like going from being single to being domesticated and like I hate that term domesticated, but like that's what it is. Like
Yeah.
you're like home life now. It's like
Sure.
this is what we have. We have home life and then we have it's like Saturday, like maybe we'll go out to like get a margarita. Like
Oh, God.
like
You better break out of
gotta
that. You need
put my
margaritas any
jeans
night
on.
of the
Oh,
week.
it's like, but we go out and like it's an event to go
Sure.
out. It's like, yeah, we have like, it's so funny. We have this whole like liquor cabinet and everyone's like, you guys are alcoholics. And I'm like, if we were alcoholics, we wouldn't have the liquor cabinet.
Yeah, it'd be
Like
gone.
it'd be empty, but it just sits there because it's like, ooh, what do you want? Let's watch a movie. Okay. We'll have like one drink with the movie, just sitting on the couch and stuff. And it's like so different from like 5 years ago when it was like, woo, 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 party.
Man, dude, I wish I had a liquor cabinet, first off. That was my first thought when you're talking about it.
It's not really a cabinet.
No, but okay, so if we're talking about liquor cabinets, I have a dream of just having like a beautiful wall.
Oh, yeah.
Just a beautiful wall with the underlit
Uh-huh.
alcohol.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
lots of
with, like,
different choices. I just want to come in. Not to drink them all. Everybody's like, obviously if there's a lot of alcohol there, you're not drinking all of it.
Right.
But I just like the idea of the collection of it. I respect alcohol.
Well,
At this
right.
point in my life, I enjoy tasting different kinds. So the idea of coming home and like the beauty of having a collection of it.
Well, and I like board games and nerdy, like stay-at-home crap like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, it'd be great if we could have like a board game cocktail party where it's like, we'll just use all the booze we have, but we'll make like fancy drinks instead of like, here's a whiskey Coke. It's like, let's make a Manhattan with like, get the whole thing with like the orange zester and like all that stuff. I'm like,
Jarrod, I want to encourage you right now because you can do this. This is very possible. Make your dreams come true.
But like, instead of like going out and like having like big old house parties and going to the bar and stuff, it's like, can we just sit at home and play Monopoly and have a drink? like that's
nothing wrong with
that's
that.
me being older.
Well,
I
it's
guess.
a very
It's
different.
weird.
It's a very different thing too when you consider the fact that you could have people that you like in your home to interact and have real connection with those people you like, and you're having drinks and it's bonding. Something about alcohol is bonding. There's a factor to that. And so now what I'm noticing is like I'm very rarely out
Right.
in a bar because it started to feel very empty. And then I'm just like around the people that I don't know. We're not really interacting. And then the people that do choose to interact with me are usually not, they're just people, that are attracted to you physically and they don't want to know you as a person, which is what a bar scene is. But point is, I think that's getting less satisfying.
So do you go to bars by yourself to like hang out and like meet people, or do you go with people?
No. I've been to a bar by myself one time, and it was actually a really nice experience.
Was it with the goal in mind to like, I'm going to go like hang out and talk to strangers, or was it like, I'm just going to go and have a drink at the bar and go with the flow?
It was that one.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of see what would happen if I put myself in that environment, which makes me really uncomfortable.
Right.
That's not a comfortable situation for me at all. I feel like I need to have people around me in a bar situation for sure.
Bars in general are just like, I don't want to go there by myself anyway.
Well, no, I feel like lame. I feel like a loser,
Right.
which I don't.
That's like
that's not what I project.
Societal stigma. That's like,
That's
if
not
you
what-
go drink by yourself, you have problems.
Yeah, I don't think of people that way. If I saw
Right.
somebody at a bar, I'd be like, all right, they're just out doing their thing.
They
Some people
they had a
probably
long
think that.
day at work and they want to drink or whatever.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
So I just, to kind of challenge myself at one point, did that. And it was back when I lived downtown. And I went to I chose a good place for it because I went to the Shout House downtown.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That
So
is a
there's
good place for that.
entertainment.
Right.
There's something to look at.
It's
not
not
just
just a
sitting
bar.
staring at your drink like,
Right.
God, I'm alone, right?
Right.
So there was something to look at. But my experience, I guess, was really nice because I sat down and I was just kind of doing my own thing. I sat on the side. I was like super weird about it. But I sat on the side having my drink. And then some guys sat around me. And they were Navy guys. And then all of a sudden, just one of them leaned over and was like, "Are you here by yourself?"
You're like,
and I was like, "Yes.
Yes?
Yes, I am." and they were like, "Oh, well, how come?" And I just kind of explained. I was like, "I guess I'm just trying it out." I'm just really honest. I was like, I've just never been to a bar by myself.
Yeah.
And
seeing what's up.
I'm just over here trying to blend into the wallpaper, like just hoping nobody notices me.
Right.
But they were like, "Oh, well, that's great. If you want, you can join our group. We can chat." None of these guys like hit on me.
Right.
They bought my drinks for the rest of the night, which was just very polite.
Sure.
But nobody made me feel uncomfortable. Nobody did whatever. And they just had conversations with me.
They were just more like, hey,
and they
don't
just
be by yourself.
They just brought me into their group.
Right. They were
so
that
was a really beautiful, actually, experience for me. I'm surprised I haven't done that again.
Right.
I haven't. But it takes a lot of energy for me to work up the nerve because...
just leaving the house.
Just getting out of the house. No, but I don't know. It's stressful. Something in the back of your mind is like, what's the point? Is there a point to me going out and doing this?
And do you have a constant fear of like bad things happening? Like,
yeah, I'm a small woman.
Like is that for real? Is that like a constant fear of like, oh crap? Yeah, especially like with everything that's coming to light these days of like men are the worst.
I haven't had, super awful negative experiences, thank goodness.
Right.
In my time. But when you are a woman, you're just aware that like I'm just not the strong one here. And, men will look at you, and sometimes I think some men don't realize that they can make you feel uncomfortable if they just walk close behind you.
Oh, yeah.
And I've had guys talk about me while they're walking behind me.
Creepy.
And I can hear them, and it's like they try to make themselves audible to you. You're putting me very much on my guard. I don't feel very safe. I live close to bars, but I'll do a $2 Uber to not walk home at night at 1, 2 in the morning.
Oh yeah, no.
Because I'd rather pay the $2 than have some. I don't know. I live in a safe place,
right?
Reasonably, but you do think about those things, and so that's why women do tend to be on their guards a little bit more because we're aware of that, and guys don't have to think about that for the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part, you guys just walk around and you're like, oh, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm out. Yeah.
Okay.
But I totally think about that, and I think especially like going out that night by myself, I was like, make sure you don't drink too much.
Right. Well, it's so funny because like when I was single and stuff, I am the worst at talking to people, like the absolute worst, which is bizarre.
Which is insanity because...
Right. I'm very good at public speaking and acting and blah, blah, blah. But if I had to go up and like hit on someone and I was like, I'm interested in this person and I'm going to go introduce myself to them, 9 out of 10 times I would just be like, meh, it's not going to go anywhere anyway.
Scary.
I just wouldn't say anything. And so then like looking back, I would be like, I am perceived as like a total creep because I'm like the guy that's like trying to make the eye contact like across the room. And then they look over and you like look away. I just hit the mic and you look away. And you're like, I wasn't looking. Yeah. And then you look back and and they're smiling and like wave. And it's like, oh wait, I'm a creep now.
I think women need to be a little bit more fair to those types of dudes because I think those are the nice guys. A lot of times.
Probably. Yeah.
All the time. Some of them are going to be freaking weird. Sure.
Right.
But sometimes those are the guys that are like, I'm just nervous to approach somebody I don't know.
Right.
I'm, like, I don't want to bother anybody. I don't know if she's interested. I'm going to look and maybe she'll look at me. And there's a nervousness there because the guys that just approach you, these are guys that approach people all the time. They don't mind being rejected most of the time. They're super comfortable. They're charming maybe because they've just built that in. Right. That's a skill they have. I think there's something nice about people that you can see a little bit of that discomfort sometimes because they're not fully sure. But I think we had this conversation too where it's like, there's no nice people out in bars. We're the nice people. It's just all these jerks. And I'm like, no. I was like, we're nice people.
Right.
Nice people are in bars.
Yeah.
But nice people aren't going up and just talking to
exactly.
anybody because it's nerve-wracking.
They're like with their person and they're just
you're
having
with your
a
friends and you're trying not to bother anybody
right.
and you might notice somebody, but you're like, should I?
I was always just waiting for like the Hollywood, like we're gonna walk to like the bar at the same time and like, oops, I bumped into you and oh my gosh, like let me buy you a drink and that's now the universe took the me having to go up like take the nerve to get off my stool and like walk walk over and be like, hi, I noticed you over here. You got really nice hair and eyes. And like, I just wanted to say, I'm Jarrod. Nice to meet you.
Yep.
And like, I would think all these things. Like, all I have to do is just go say, hi, I'm Jarrod.
You just envision
nice
it, but you don't.
All I have to do is just go say, hi, I'm Jarrod. Nice to meet you. Those words. That's it. Hi, I'm Jarrod. I'd like to meet you. Nope. I just sit on the corner and be like, okay, hang on and stare at you for a while.
So this is where I think women could help men out. We should be more generally receptive to people approaching in that way. As long as we're in safe environments.
Right.
You're in a bar. It's just a guy coming to say hi to you. A lot of women really react very defensively and kind of like snotty to somebody approaching them.
How dare you come talk to me?
Don't give that energy unless this man approaches you and he's rude. If it's just a person coming to talk to you, be generally kind to that person and be nice. They're just trying to come up and talk to you.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of the nicer guys that I've met are scared off because they say, well, these women just like, the way they talk to me makes me feel so shunned.
It's the worst. It's the worst. Because all you're trying to do is like meet somebody. And you're like,
we
okay,
shouldn't be scared of just
trying to
people.
meet. I'm just trying to meet you, and like maybe we'll have a good conversation, and maybe I'll get your number, and maybe we'll have another good conversation tomorrow.
Who knows?
And this is all like maybe just on somebody that I look at and I'm like, oh, they're cute. I'm gonna go say something. And then if I finally got like that, literally that 10th time, I'm like, now's the time. I got up. I'm like, okay, I've had a drink. I'm kind of loose. I'm good. Hi, I'm Jarrod. Can I get you a drink? And they're just like, oh, no, I'm here with so-and-so. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that's the end of that. Bye.
But that's what scares me is that so the nicer dudes out there are getting feedback that they shouldn't approach ever. That's what worries me. So those guys will never talk to you?
But it's not, I have a feeling it's not the women's fault. I have a feeling it's the other men's fault. Like because men give men the worst rap of all time.
Oh, I mean, yes. Can't argue with you there.
Men are terrible. Like, it's true. It's so weird because I'm a very decent human being, I would like to believe. And, like, somebody posted on Facebook when all, like, the crazy stuff, the Me Too stuff was happening, and they're like, just think back, have you ever, like, been out of place with somebody in your life without knowing it? And, like, looking back, I'm like, I hope not. Like, I have no idea.
Right.
But then, like, being out of place could have been, like, hugging somebody at a party that I just met. And, like, I'm a hugger. And, like, it was a party, so I'm, like, hugging all my friends goodbye. And I'm like, oh, it's good to meet you, hug. And, like, I could have just been, like, the worst human being in their life right now. Like, they hate hugs. You know what I mean? And, like, then, like...
don't like hugs, but...
Right. But, like, then I'm, like, a weirdo, creepy person in their eyes forever. And I'm like, oh, man, that's weird. And you just don't know how people are going to react to things. And so I feel like there's no, like, general solution other than just try and be the best person that you can be. And then if somebody doesn't like something... don't do that thing to them anymore. And
have you run into people that'll be like, hey, I usually give hugs. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah.
You want a hug? If not, it's fine.
Right.
They just talk about it.
Right.
They just literally say
I
like
hugging. I'm a hug you.
Not forcing it on somebody. Some people just go like, I'm a hugger, and they grab you.
Right. No, if I don't know people, I'll like put my hand up for a handshake, and they're like, no, we hug. And I'm like, okay, me too. But I didn't.
We've gotten very scared of hugs, which is kind of a little unusual.
People have gotten scared of people just in general. If I thought it was hard before, back before the dating apps in my day, like if I thought it was hard before to talk to somebody in real life, me going up to somebody now, I feel like they'd be like, why are you here? How come you're not texting me or what?
Think
like
people get offended by a phone call?
Right. If you just call somebody, if you just decide to call somebody because like, oh, you know, how do you make that recipe that you made in the crock pot? It's like, I could sit here and try and like text a response. They texted me, they're expecting a text response. But something like that, I'm like, I'm just going to call you. And then like, oh, oh my God. Ah. And then it rings for like 4 times. And I'm like, you were just holding your phone. Like, I know
we're all
it's in
just
your
holding
hand.
Our phones.
Like, right. I know it's in your hand. You just sent me a text. And now you're like, oh my God, do I answer it? Like, what could this mean? Why is the phone ringing right now? It's like, that's how people are. It's so weird. And so like, if I were to walk up to somebody now and just try and start talking to somebody in real life, they'd be like, what's happening?
This is not normal interaction.
Like, does that happen? Do people come talk to you? Like,
I'll tell you what, I think it's refreshing at this point.
Yeah.
As long as you're not, if you're a nice person coming up to talk to me, I think that's refreshing. I think it's cool if you're trying to start a real conversation. But yeah, that's weird. Like, I'll definitely, 85% of the time, I get a text message that says, hey, can I call you? Or, hey, are you like, they check in before they even attempt the phone call.
But then
There's a permission that's asked to make a phone call.
right.
That's
Because they'll
got
call
going.
and then you won't answer it, and then they'll leave a weird, awkward voicemail.
Yeah.
And then it's on you, and then they're sitting there like, I wonder if she's ever gonna call.
Dude, if I get a voicemail, I'm like, what in the heck? Like, that's next level. How often do you use FaceTime?
Never.
And what a cool technology.
Right.
We could literally be face to face talking, and we don't use it. Some people maybe do.
My sister-in-law uses it all the time.
Yeah.
Because she has her sister lives in Australia, and like her parents live in Colorado. I think it's more for like kids can see grandpa.
Okay, yeah.
But I remember when that was coming out, I was like, oh my God, like the future's here. Like this is what we always dreamed about. Marty McFly had this technology in 1985 and it was the greatest. And like, I can only imagine like being able to video chat with somebody. That's so cool. And then, got it. And I was like, I never used that.
It's weird to me. And I didn't know if it was just me, but or the people I'm around, but I'm like, we don't utilize this.
I think it's going to,
as often as we
think it's going to start to be a thing. And here's a dating app idea that we should rack in the money on. It should be like a Facebook Live or like a Periscope type thing, where instead of just Tinder, or it's like, no, this isn't gonna fail. It's already failed. It's called Chat Roulette, and it was the worst.
And it was full of gross human beings.
It was just people whacking off the entire time.
I know, well, y'all gotta ruin it, dude.
But like, can you imagine if you actually got to interact with the picture that was?
It's like speed dating, but you're
you're in your home.
Chatting,
right? Yeah.
And you just allocate 20 minutes to sitting on some speed dates real quick.
Right.
It's very different to read a profile and to see some pictures, and so often you meet them in person, and wow, you're like, what? The image I created for you, the voice I created for you, whoever I thought I was going to meet, this is different. And so there's a period of time where you're having to adjust to the fact that you simply created something in your mind that wasn't them. And that's what you don't get from the online dating profiles, is the essence.
Right. Well, the idea, I just realized the idea that I just had also was the old video dates from like the 80s. Where they're like, I like...
What's up? I'm Kevin.
Don't even talk to me if you don't like smoking, because... I'm a camel man. You're like, what? How is that how you put your video? Like, you paid a lot of money to make this video back in the 80s.
But I'm trying to look cool.
And it's like, what are you doing? And like, now we watch those and it's like hilarious. But like, legit, those are the people that are on like Tinder now that are like, I'm just trying to find somebody and like
trying to meet people. Because how do you meet people?
Remember when it was classified ads in the newspaper? Do you remember that?
Yeah. That's pretty crazy
like,
now, huh?
Obviously, we never put classified ads in the newspaper, but like that was the thing, like single white female looking for da-da-da-da-da-da. You got 25 words or whatever to be like, this is me, and there's no pictures, there's just a phone number, and it's like ring ring ring.
Super strange. Dude, do you watch Black Mirror?
Oh no, I don't.
First question then for you is, what is wrong with you? Second question is,
everyone asks me if I've watched it, and I have only watched the first episode of the first season.
Oh, it's a gnarly one, too.
That is the worst.
It's a hard one to get through.
Right. Well, it's weird because, like, we were talking about, like, murder and psychopaths and all that stuff, and I can handle that weirdo stuff. But that one, for some reason, was just, like, but, like, I know it's not even like that. Especially season 4 is all, like, about, futuristic technology and, like, how, like, all. And so I'm like, of course I'm going to like it. But that first one, I just have never gotten back to it.
I always tell people that. I say that about Black Mirror season 1, episode 1.
Just
that one's a little funky.
Just don't watch it.
That one's a little funky.
Like, to start your show,
it's going to gross you out a little bit.
It's just so
I'm
icky.
still fascinated by it because for me it's the concept of, what can you make people do?
Oh, right.
And what will people watch when you put it in front of them?
Well,
I wouldn't want to watch that.
Of course
when I
not.
was watching it, it's not something I would partake in.
Right.
So but people now you'll have to go and watch this episode, of course.
Right. But
and how gross
just
it is.
It's going to leave you icky.
Yeah. I say the same thing about American Horror Story.
Right.
Season 5, Hotel. The Hotel season. Have you seen it?
Yes.
So that first episode's got a pretty gnarly scene in there that most people are super turned off by.
Yeah,
I get it.
It's pretty messed up.
It's very messed up. How did they get away with putting
scene.
that on
Right.
television? We don't know. But I always say, if you can get past that.
Right, just But see, that's the thing. I don't understand why they had to like come out the gate, because there's a whole other season that they obviously had planned. It's like, maybe make that one like your mid-season, so that way people are into the
Horror Story. We're gonna
like people are
turn it
into
out.
the weirdo stuff already. But I know that every episode's different in general, and every season's different. So everyone's telling me I have to watch season 4. Season 4 is so good.
Season 4 is really.
And
I mean, I thoroughly enjoy every episode. Of every season. It's
because I love like
so up my alley.
Well, I love the Twilight Zone and like all this kind of stuff anyway, and so
that's always what my brain's thinking about, because I'm a strange person. No jokes though. But the episode 4 of the 4th season of Black Mirror.
What's it called?
It's called Hang the DJ.
Okay. I've heard things about this episode.
It is my favorite. It became my favorite. I tapped into this episode so hard. Here's the problem. I can't really talk about it too much because I don't want to ruin it for anybody.
Well, without spoiling things, because I haven't seen it. I've heard people talk about it, I think. This is the one where like people have like weirdo like clones or something doing their conversations for them or something along those lines. Something like that, maybe?
It's dating.
Okay.
They're dating.
Okay.
They are going on dates,
but they're
and they're
weird
being matched
clones or
with
something.
They're being matched with people from this super smart computer.
Got it.
That is just sending them on dates and hooking them up for a specific period of time.
Right.
And they show up
like
and they
12
sit,
hours or whatever.
Yeah, they sit with each other and they're like, "Oh, how much time do we get together?" And it'll be like a year or 12 hours, or it just varies.
Right.
So they're going through all of this situation, and they're giving in to the intelligence of this AI
Let
system.
the computer run our life. Right.
That is telling us, and it says everything happens for a reason, which is one of those things that I choose to believe in because I can find the pattern of that in my own existence, right? So that just spoke to me, just right there. So anyway, they're just trying to trust this system to make them stay with people for a year that they may not even like, or to do all these kind of things.
Now, do they have to stay?
Yeah, as you're watching it, as you're watching them go through this seems to be law.
Right.
Like they can't break that.
Can't get out of this. Right.
There seems to be
you don't know
security. There seems to be security keeping them there. That's making sure that they do these things. It's fascinating, though, to think that we get to this point. Another thing. Oh, well, I'm just thinking about it, and I was talking about this today with people. There's a show on Netflix called Travelers, and no one else in the world
I haven't even heard of it. I've never
seems
even
to
heard
be
of
watching it. I think it's amazing.
Travelers. Is it a Netflix original?
Yeah.
Stupid. Oh, so I run a TV and film podcast, right?
Yes, I'm aware.
It's about binge watching TV shows.
I've been on it. I'm talking about Comic-Con now.
It is impossible to watch TV. Not only just time-wise, but you're like, oh, there's a new show, Travelers. That's great. How many episodes is that? 8. They're all an hour. Great. That's 8 hours. Sure. That's doable. But then you're like, there's also Black Mirror, and there's also Turn, and there's also this, and there's Mad Men, which I still haven't seen.
We're inundated with content.
There's too much. That's what I'm saying. It's impossible. So you're like, now I have to like prioritize on what I want to watch and this and that. And then you're like, we got to watch this and keep up with this and that. And oh my God, Game of Thrones is coming back. And it's like, when am I ever going to watch it? And like people tell me, I'm like, oh man, I want to watch it so badly. But I'm like, well, I'm in the middle of this. So I'll get to it when I get to it. And then you look at it and it's like, now it's 15 on the list. And you're like, am I ever going to watch those other 14?
Yeah, dude. It gets difficult. Even when I do my workouts now, I used to like put music on and do work. I work out with YouTube. That's what I do. So now this is my setup. I actually have a TV show on that I'm watching that I'm trying to get through episodes. That's how I watched Travelers the other day doing my workout. Put it on the TV. I have my phone propped up with my YouTube guided workout, and I'm working out, but I'm watching the show.
That's awesome.
So I'm doing everything I can to kind of multitask it to still watch these things. This show in particular, though, is insane to me because I feel like nobody's watching this. I haven't talked to anybody else that's seen this show, and I'm like, why am I alone? I'm probably not alone. There's probably plenty of people that watch it, but I don't know anybody. It's amazing. It's about people that are traveling back from the future to 21st century hosts.
Sure.
They can jump into the body of somebody that they know the exact time of their death historically
yes.
and coordinates. And so they're sent back into that body to take them over the time they would have died anyway.
I think I saw a preview for this.
What's his name? Eric McCormick from Will and Grace? He played Will.
Yes.
He's in it. But yeah, it's a very interesting story, and it's all built on these travelers traveling back here to save the world, to fix history so that they don't get into the place they were in the future. And all of their missions come from the director, which is an computer. AI super intelligent thing that seems
a computer
that can monitor all of the different paths
Like,
of
I
existence.
feel that's where humans are going.
And do you feel like we're extra fascinated with it right now? Everybody seems to be like thinking about these
I don't
things.
think a Westworld type situation is going to exist.
When's that show coming back?
I don't.
That's good.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be we are going to combine with the machines.
We're already doing it. Yeah.
Like the Borg in Star Trek, or however you want to describe it, where it's like we need to put computers in our brains to make us superhuman. The human race is going to turn into like a bisymbiotic. Like,
we're trying to integrate.
I think that's what's going to happen.
We're trying to integrate.
Obviously not tomorrow, but like
No.
everyone's like the robots are going to take over, and it's like they're not going to take over. As far as like Terminator's gonna like that's not gonna happen.
No, I don't think
it's gonna they're gonna take over because we are going to give ourselves up to them.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think
that's what I think.
I think in some ways people want to be them. We want to be a little bit more perfect than we should be sometimes. Right? And if you think about it, it starts with computers and they're amazing, and then we have these iPhones and things that we carry with us that we've developed attachments to. They tried Google Glasses.
It's like a bigger addiction than
it's huge.
Yeah.
You feel anxiety when it's away from you. They try Google Glasses, but people's like, oh, that's awkward. But now they want to do contacts. So it's like
you get a heads-up display.
Slowly integrating with how do we make this part of us.
But it would be so cool.
It'd be very cool, and there's a lot of amazing ways to use it. In other ways, I'm also thinking like, so we're trying to create this AI. What is the driving force? Because you could create robots, which we have, that obviously do incredible things, that work in factories and do things that are
mundane tasks.
Over and over tasks that we don't want to do.
Right.
We could be content with that, but no, we want to create something that looks like us.
Right.
That we can interact with and we can't tell the difference.
It's like the God complex, or the
it's like a little bit of our ego.
We want to create something in our image.
But the problem is, I think if you genuinely get there, when you genuinely get there, and you create this thing that it is beautiful, and it's better than you at everything, thought process. It's not bogged down by feelings that are ridiculous and because we're people. We're flawed. We want to be connected to them, but almost like they're a safe place to connect to because they're not real people. And so with real people, there seems to be more vulnerability because people will turn on you more. But we're like, if we create something that I can connect to that's not real.
This robot won't break my heart.
It won't break my heart.
Right.
It's not programmed to, but look how perfect it is. But I think somehow you'll want to be it, though.
Right.
And you'll be like, I just created something that's better than me. What? Than me. It's like creating your replacement.
It's so true.
And once it's smarter than us, it's going to look at us and be like, it's a Tron thing, dude. You know how I love Tron?
Yeah.
Well,
it's also
where
like...
Clue looks at him and goes, am I still supposed to create the perfect system?
Right.
And he's like, yeah. And then he turns on him because he's like, you're not freaking perfect.
You're not supposed to be here.
And that's the fear. But like we're creating something that's like to connect to.
Right.
It's going to be better. And what is more dangerous than a human being that feels worthless? What is more dangerous than that when you feel like you don't have a place? I just went off on a tangent, but I've been in this.
I bring out the tangent in people. Well, it's funny because like I love my phone and like I have an Amazon Echo at my house, and I'm like,
you talk to it all day.
I'm like, hey Alexa, why don't you play me some music?
Can we get to the point where we can name them anything we want? Side note.
You should be able to do that. So going way back to what we were talking about, like online dating and stuff. So I met my now wife. I met her in college at a culinary arts class, and we knew each other then. And then 5 years later on Facebook, I asked her if she wanted to get coffee.
I like those kind of stories, though.
Right. And so, like, we were always, like, somewhat connected. Like, every once in a while, I'd be like, oh, here's a picture from Samantha, or here's a picture from Jarrod. And it was like, oh, yeah, I remember him from our class or whatever. That's cool, blah, blah, blah. And then it got to the point where I was like, oh, man, she's really into, like, Halloween and stuff. I really like Halloween. So I was, like, actively, like, looking for, like, Halloween posts. And I'm, like, weirdo, like, Facebook stalky a little bit. Like, ooh, I'm going to find one. I'm going to like one from, like, a year ago.
We all
like,
freaking
of course.
do it.
So I was like,
everybody's just scared to say, you do it.
And so, yeah, of course, everyone does. as soon as you find out a person's name, you're like,
course.
I am now going to look at their entire life.
You're trying to figure out who they are. You're trying to figure out how you can connect to them
Mm-hmm.
if you're trying to start a conversation. It's natural, I think.
So I'm sitting here like going through, ooh, there's a good Halloween picture. I'm going to like this one, even though it's from a year ago. So like, you know,
Ooh,
I'm sending,
bold.
I'm sending those like, ooh, here's a signal that I'm like
Right.
looking through playing this stupid game in my brain. I'm like, ooh, if I like this thing from a year ago, she'll know that I was like looking back. Like, it's not just like something
Yeah.
she posted, but it's like, I had to look for it. Right? This is
And
what
we
I'm thinking.
acknowledge it because I have this conversation with my girlfriends. I'm like, hey, you know, dude, he liked something from 2 years ago. He's going in.
Right.
He's trying to figure it out.
And then it comes to find out, like, she's sitting here, like, on her end. Ooh, he liked that Halloween post. Like, I should post another Halloween thing.
God, it's
So
a
she's
future
like
interaction.
baiting me with the pictures on her end, and I'm like stalking her on Facebook with my end. Come to find out, we're doing the exact same thing, which is why I was like, "Do you want to go hang out?" Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then we got married
The next day. No, but that's great. But sometimes what's amazing is isn't it all just about timing?
Well, not only that, but it's also it took away the entire nervousness of having to try and meet somebody because it was somebody that I knew, but I didn't really know.
Right.
Like think of like a coworker that you kind of see in passing, but isn't in like your department or whatever.
Sure.
Where it's like, oh, I see them in the office when I check in the morning, and then we part ways or whatever. Like, okay, I kind of know them. And then years later, you're like, they were kind of cute. I wonder what's up with that person.
And they're like real people to you.
Right.
That's the bizarre thing is how you think about people in these sort of interactions. And like me and Jenna were talking about, right? Like I was saying, all my relationships have been guys that were friends.
Right. Because that's the same thing. It's like, it's somebody that I know.
Because we were just
You
people.
don't
We just
have
hung
to-
out.
Yep.
We were cool. And then all of a sudden, but it's a timing thing.
Oh, yeah.
And-
That's when
and
the universe takes over.
People have come back from my past where we have a little bit of a history, just knowing each other.
Right.
And then when you reconnect and kind of find out how you've grown since the time that you've last talked or whatever, there's something about that that just has a little bit more depth.
Like it's way less scary
Mm-hmm.
because you feel you know them and you're like, oh, this is just my friend or this is just my acquaintance or this is that person that I briefly know, but it's still somebody that you know.
They get a little edge up on the trust.
Right. Exactly. And then it was one of those, like, it just makes sense. We don't have to try about anything. It's like, this is stupid good. This
natural
doesn't happen. Like, this doesn't
Jared, I
happen.
know.
But it
I love
will.
that.
It will. I was like on the verge of like, I'm just going to be single forever. And I'll
I
have
know.
a
I make that
dog
joke
and-
all the time.
Right.
I'm always joking about it. But somewhere in my own head, I am aware that at some point it's just something's going to just work itself out and it's going to make sense. And there's something that's really amazing about that when you choose to accept that thought process.
Mhm.
Because when you are like going through this dumb dating thing and things don't seem to be going right, or you're like, why am I so? You question yourself, you question
Right.
all the people you're meeting, everything just doesn't seem to be working out right. But if you think about it in the sense of, okay, so this didn't work out, well, I guess there's probably a reason for it. You never know who you're going to end up talking to again.
Yep.
After years. There's
Years.
people that come up for
Years.
years
Yep,
and
years.
never thought I'd speak to them
Mhm.
again. Or whatever, or maybe they go away forever. But if they did, there's a reason for that.
Right.
They didn't need to be there.
Wasn't the thing.
It just wasn't the thing.
Mhm.
So if you approach all of this from a sense of, I'm going to go into every experience, I'm going to be me, we're going to see how this plays out. If it doesn't work and it feels forced,
Right.
accept it.
Yep.
Accept that it's forced and something's not going right. Move on, keep living life. And then if it plays out, it plays out. And if it doesn't, it wasn't meant for you.
Well, and also like dating when I was in my 20s was extremely different than dating when I was in my 30s.
Mm.
Because like in your 20s, you're like, everything's going to work, everything's going to be magical, and I'm going
Yeah.
to stick with this forever.
And
But
you try
like,
to figure out how to make everything work perfectly.
but like, here's an example of a date that I went on when I was in my 30s. This is very paraphrased and shortened, but it was like, hey, I'm glad we're meeting up for coffee, blah, blah, blah. I want kids in the future. Do you want kids? No? Okay, great. See you later.
But you know what?
But like,
Those are foundational things that need to be in tune.
right. It's like now I'm an adult person, probably halfway through my life at this point.
No, we're going to get technology. It's going to
Right,
make us
of
young
course.
again. Okay, hold on.
But like, you know what I mean? I'm like, it's half gone. Cut to the chase. Like it's a job interview almost instead of like a fun romantic thing. But I could really, really, really like you, But if you're allergic to dogs, like, sorry, that's not going to happen.
Oh, yeah,
like,
that's
if
not
you're
gonna work for
it's
me.
like, sorry, I'm not going to not have a dog.
No.
Like, it's not, you
I'm
can't,
not going to dampen my
nothing
existence.
will tell, nothing, right. You know what I mean? Like, it's just not going to happen. So I could think you're the most beautiful, loving, caring person ever. But if there's one thing that's like a quote deal breaker, it's like, well, sorry, I don't want to waste any more of your time. I don't want to waste any more of my time. This obviously can't happen because of whatever reason. So bye.
I love the concept these days of being just so clear,
Well,
of really talking
right.
about things that matter earlier on, because whatever, dude, what is the harm in just being real about who you are and what you're really looking for?
Yep.
What is the harm of that? It's a time saver.
But people are so, it's not part of their here's what I'm presenting to you plan.
Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed with that. Like, I don't want to feel like I'm presenting. What are we playing perfect for? What are we playing
because
a role
that's what
for?
we do. That's what every species does. We're stupid animals, just like peacocks. Peacock
Yeah,
boys
right?
like, look at my tail. Aren't I the best looking peacock ever? Oh, I got daddy issues, but you'll never know that until later. But that's what we do. We're just like, I'm going to put on my best outfit. I'm going to put on my best clothes. I'm going to smell
Sure.
real good. I'm going to go out and I'm going to be like,
Sure.
here, this is me. And I'm perfect. I'm perfect. I'm perfect. I'm perfect.
And I fall prey to this, of course,
And then
every now and again.
yeah.
But my thing is, I'm very much in this place where I get into these freaking legit, real conversations with people from the get now.
Right.
Because
That's how it should happen.
because I'm just open to it. Sure, I'm going to put some perfume on. Like,
Right.
I want to feel
Of
like I
course.
look nice when we meet and all that kind of stuff.
You'll
but
put
I
your
also,
best physical self forward, but you
Yes.
need to also get your best mental self out
But
there.
I also just
right
need to
off
be
the
like,
bat.
let's just talk about this stuff. You know, they
Right.
tell you not to don't talk about politics. Don't talk
Politics,
about religion.
religion,
Don't talk
kids.
about. I think it's ridiculous. I
Right.
think talk about who you are, and I think talk about the things
Like,
that are
don't-
really important to you.
Yeah.
Because those things down the line, if you ignored these and you acted like they weren't important, I think that's the thing that are going to ruin your relationship.
Right. That's when you're gonna hold a grudge on something.
Be
or
honest
like,
about
you made me
who you
change.
are.
You made me change who I am, or you wanted me to change for you, or all these. That's where these things come from.
Yes.
So if you just like, don't obviously come out and be like, "Hi, I'm Jarrod. I'm Christian, and I want 18
Yeah, you have to be
babies."
weird.
Like, don't be weird about it. Like, if you're like having a conversation,
Yeah.
you don't even have to be like, "Oh, so who'd you vote for?" It just be
No,
like, "Well,
it's
just come, like, have a
conversational.
conversation."
Go in non-judgmental.
Right.
If somebody's different than you, it doesn't mean that you are automatically in opposition now that you have a different viewpoint. You're sitting there trying to get to know another person.
That's why you're there. in
It's
the
why you're
first
there.
place. Unless it's like something huge that's going to impact your life personally, specifically, like the kids thing. If you want kids, I feel like you need to tell somebody you either want them or you really, really don't want them. Or if you're both maybes, that's probably the best. You figure it out later if that's going to happen for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if somebody's I don't want them at all ever, then that's something that needs to be said like off the bat. And like people can't put that like in their profiles
People are
because
scared of telling people
I
that.
can't tell somebody the truth.
Hinge has that on there. It says like don't have kids and don't ever. They have you like say certain things like
Right.
that. They also allow you to add videos. So you could technically like make a little video for them to see.
Oh, so they do
you
have
and
that
instead of
thing.
your Instagram. It's like a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people make like a custom one.
They should.
But
Be like, hi.
I think
I'm
that'd
Jeff.
be dope if they did make
I
you.
like Camel Man.
It's different when you hear somebody talk, right?
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like that, maybe that's what all it is. Instead of like you, like on Bumble, you have to make the first move or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe instead of just sending a text like, "Hey, what's up?" Maybe there's no texting. Maybe you have to call, or maybe you have to FaceTime in order to contact someone.
Dang, because that's so much more like legit.
Right. Because instead of like you just like, I'll send
do
18
your
text
makeup.
messages tonight. Like maybe instead of just sending a text message, because anybody can be like, "Hey, what's up?" or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Which like everything says, don't just say, "Hey, what's up?"
I know.
Like, what else you want me
Yeah.
to say? I don't fucking know you. But it's like maybe instead you have to call them, or maybe it's a FaceTime. So it's like, "Ooh, I'm interested in this person." Beep boop beep boop beep beep. Bing. FaceTime. Hey,
This is interesting.
we matched, and now the only way we can talk to each other is face to face, but not really.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
I'm picking up what you're putting
It's
down right
it's
now.
an idea.
I like the concept of it because
Don't
it's
put
like,
this episode out ever because I have to make this before that.
It's not allowed to go out.
Right.
I like the idea of that because I guess my general feeling is like these things could be effective, but we need to make them encourage real connection.
Right. Well, and that's the
rather
thing. Like,
than
if it's
fake.
especially with FaceTime, because here's the thing: when you're talking to somebody on the phone or FaceTime, you have to talk to them. Like text messages are great,
but I can't edit myself if we're
right,
FaceTiming.
You can't.
I have to just be myself. There's no time.
You just have to talk. Right. You just have to talk to them. I'm telling you, this is brilliant.
It is brilliant. I've had conversations where message-wise, we send messages back and forth and it seems cool. And then we got on the phone. That conversation felt so clunky. Our humors were off. Something about the whole way that we interpret the world was off because it was the most uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
He didn't seem to get me. I didn't seem to get him.
I was just joking with you, Courtney. I was just joking.
If you have to say those kinds of things, I was just kidding with it.
I was a dick, but I was just joking.
You're both probably fine people, but maybe you don't have the same types of humors. You know, I was talking to Michelle today, and I was like, man, okay, so they talk about like opposites attract.
Right.
And maybe you can tell me from your experience now, because you're like a successful relationship person.
Married. 34-year-old married man.
There you go. You're grown up. But it's like
I've grown up.
it feels like as a person, you want to be with somebody that has maybe the same priorities in life, that has certain foundational core values as you, that, you know, kids think that's an important thing. Right. Do you want them to do it? Are you open to it? Whatever. Right. General religion stuff, if it does play a part and it's important to you, needs to be valid. If you are heavily political and that's going to affect you, it has to play a part somewhere in there. It's just a belief system. There's some foundational sense of self that has to be relevant. Right. But there's a difference between that, I think, and then your personality.
Absolutely.
So I'm super introverted. And like I said, I can be, I can be out and I can be whatever, but like approaching people makes me nervous. I'm very generally shy. I do well with an extroverted person.
Right. Who's like, I'm going to get you out of your shell. And you're
out.
Right.
Because they pull me out, I pull them in, and we meet somewhere in the middle.
Well, the opposites attracting thing, I believe it's like more about like this person fills that role that's not for me. So like I'm a pushover type person where like somebody will get in my face and I'm like, I will avoid the conflict at all costs. Not like pushover, like, because like that means I'll like, give me all your money. It's like, okay, whatever.
Well,
but like,
but you're not.
I just avoid confrontation. I guess that's more likely. Samantha is all about yelling at people, like all about it. So if like somebody cuts me off, I'm like, whatever, just honk honk, try and let it go. She will like tailgate him and this and that, like, you know, like this type of stuff. But it's like I need that. Like I need somebody. Like if the waiter comes over and it's gross food and they're like, "How is it?" I'd be like, "Oh, it's okay."
Please don't spit in my food.
Right? I'll be like, "Oh, it's okay," and then I'll just sit there and eat it. Where she's like, "It's not okay. You don't like it. It's gross. It's cold. Excuse me. This is cold. Get rid of it." And I'm like,
it's the person that can do the things that you can't do for yourself.
And so like we're opposite in that aspect where she doesn't give a crap about being mean, quote unquote, or however you want to say that. And I'm like, I need that. So it makes sense for me. Or movies, like I like stupid comedy movies and stuff, and she likes really scary horror movies and stuff, and I like those too. But like getting somebody to put something on that you normally wouldn't watch, you're like, oh, that's a different perspective on entertainment or whatever. Like it wasn't necessarily the greatest thing ever, but like I never would have seen this without this person. Or
it's good to see different things,
right,
to keep you more well-rounded. And that's talking about this last night. The concept of social media.
All the stuff you talk about all the
time. My weekend was overwhelming. Just this weekend. Usually it's just me by myself here.
Right.
But we were talking about the concept of like social media. The algorithms trend us to people that think like us, the things we already like, the things that we search for. So you end up interacting with a lot of people that are the same.
Like-minded, yes.
Which is great for a sense of community. But there's a huge benefit in exposing yourself to people that are very different than you.
Yes.
Because they can have different viewpoints and different beliefs, but you're both still people. And you can still find common ground and still be nice to each other and whatever. But I think it's trending us towards feeling very separate from people.
Well, especially now, the way that social media has become a political media in particular. It's like you can't like anybody that's not on your side. They're red and you're blue, and that's the end of it. Don't like red, don't like blue. There's no purple. And I'm like, we need more purple.
I fully believe in that. I don't see why you can't have a mix of views depending on the topics.
It's just computers are stupid. And they shouldn't run us. They shouldn't run our lives. But maybe.
I do feel like
people like want to be like shut down.
I feel like people are starting to get a little bit more awake to the fact that our systems are maybe not working for us as much as we hoped they were.
Well, it's also funny because like when you think Friday night, like Friday night, it's end of the week, I'm going to go out and like, do something fun or whatever. And like, to me, like Friday night now is like, I'm on one side of the couch. She's on the other side of the couch. Like, no, it's not like the snuggle fest going on or anything. It's like, I'm over there, she's over here. And there's the dog sitting on the couch cushion in the middle. And like, I'm watching TV or a movie and she's doing her thing. And like, that's Friday. It's like, we have a glass of wine or something. And everyone's like, don't you want to
you're
go?
like, that's crazy.
Don't you want to go do something? And I'm like, right. No, but it's like, don't you guys like feel disconnected? Like, don't you want to sit next to each other? And it's like, I see her all the time. Like, literally, she's like my person. I literally sleep next to her. Like, people think weird thing. Like, why do you sit on opposite ends of the couch? Like, why don't you sit next to each other? Isn't that like you feel like there's space between you or something? And I'm like, no, we're just doing our thing. Like, we aren't the same person. It's weird. And people kind of think it's weird if you're not cuddling on the couch all the time or like holding hands all the time. Like, I do that most of the time, but like
idealization, I think, of the relationship, right? Where like everything is, it's a perfect romance and we're always connected. We can't stand to be away from each other.
Another big thing that made it so successful is that every Friday night is like guy night, basically. And she's like, have fun on Friday or whatever, have fun tonight. And like, people are like, oh, you guys are like separate like that? Yeah, we have to. Like, she goes and hangs out with her people. I hang out with my people. We have similar people, or like my people are also her people as well. But like, it's like, I just still need to do me stuff. And like, that's even if it's like one night a week. But if like there's a wedding on Friday coming up, obviously I'm not going to go do me stuff. Like, there's a wedding, we're going to the wedding. Duh. If there's plans or whatever, like, but you have to still do your own stuff. We like pretend to be jealous. Like, if she gets a text message, I'm like, who's that? If I get who's that? Like, that's our thing. Who's that? And it's like, I don't give a crap who's texting you. Like,
well, that's what the trust is
trust
for. That's the
like,
beautiful thing.
It's like, I don't
That's
care.
the whole point of a relationship. I feel like sometimes relationships right now are getting a little bit of a bad rap.
Yeah.
And I guess, okay, so from my viewpoint, what a relationship means is, and I'm not in them very frequently.
Right.
Because to me, what they mean is, that means I've got a good, solid amount of trust with this person. I shouldn't have to feel jealous.
Or hide stuff. Or like,
I don't have to feel that because I'm in a relationship where we are safe here.
Right.
And I don't have to feel those weird things. And it's part of my job to make sure that he never feels jealous.
Right.
And it's his job to make sure that I don't feel that because we are secure with each other. That's the benefit of a relationship.
Right. Well, like,
and that's been lost, I think, a lot of.
Well, like right now, so what? It's as we're recording this, it's 9:00 on a Tuesday night in the middle of the week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, all I told my wife was like, "Oh, my friend Courtney has this podcast, and like, we're gonna go record." And she's like, "Have I met her?" And I was like, "Maybe in passing him once, but I don't think so." He's like, "Okay, well, have fun. Bye."
That's how it should be.
And that's what's awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's how it should be.
Awesome. Like, it's just weird that like people get in this
open
weird
communication and having real trust.
I told her my number one thing. I was like, my number one thing is honesty. I will never, ever, ever cheat on you because my parents got divorced when I was very young, and like I heard things that I never wanted to hear. Like the worst thing I ever heard in my life is gonna break people's hearts. The worst thing I ever heard in my life is like my mom and dad arguing, and it was like this huge epic fight, and then my mom said, "You come home smelling like her," and like I will never, ever, ever forget that. I'm like a 6-year-old kid, and like that's like ingrained in my brain.
Yeah.
And so like I will never cheat on anybody ever. And I told her, I was like, honesty and in communication is 100%. I will break your heart before I do anything else. I promise you that. I will tell you if it's not working. I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry, it's not working, because I can't do that type stuff. Like I can't. There's no way that in my person that I could like do. I have to tell you, honesty is key. 100% honesty.
I completely agree. I have the same kind of root thing where I'm like, I am incapable of cheating on somebody.
Right. It's
I would
not
never
possible.
cheat. I would never cheat on somebody because I would rather tell you first.
Right.
I'd rather tell
I
you
will
that this
break
is
your
not
heart
working
before.
out. If I'm
Yep.
looking at somebody that hard and it's that much of a problem,
Yep.
I'm going to go ahead and be aware of that problem and end it before I add insult to injury.
Right. Well, and I think that's also why the new generation or the millennial generation, however you want to word it, because like I believe that the whole like marriage is 50% success rate or whatever. I feel like that's completely going to change because so many people came from that 50% success rate where it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't know. I'm 34. I got married when I was 34 years old. Never been married. She's never been married. I know people that are like on their second marriage or like their second divorce, and it's like all these people got married so young and all this stuff. It's like I think the newer generation is going to be like, no,
a little bit more
let's
cautious.
just like let's take a break, go back. Like we don't need to get married when we're 20.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and if I'm not knocking you if you get married when you're 20. Like, go for it. Like if that's what you feel you need to happen. But like, I know that I'm going to be married one time in my life, and it's right now.
You know, the problem with statistics, too, is that people think that they have to be one.
Oh,
so when
right.
you're told, like, 50% of marriages,
Right.
and you automatically go, oh, my God, so I have half a chance of not having a success. You don't have to be that.
Right. But, like, people still kind of take that in. They're like, oh, my God, half of marriages break up. That means if I get married, I have a 50% chance that it's going to end horribly. Yeah. And then you think that going in, you're going to be like, is this what ends it? Is this what ends it? Is this what ends it? Is this what makes me 50%? It's like, no, just like.
No, you just try to be as smart as you can about it. You can't control the other person, obviously, but there's probably smarter ways to go into it.
Yeah. I sounded like such a dick. Somebody was like, oh, you found the one? You found like the love of your life? And I was like, I found Samantha. And they're like, what? And I was like, the one? There's 7 billion people. If there's like a one perfect weirdo soulmate that's on my earth, they probably don't live in my county. Like,
no.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's totally ruining the romanticism of stuff.
That's the beauty of the internet, because it's like, what if the person you're meant to be with is not
right.
in my neighborhood?
They don't live next to me.
Because that's how people used to get together. We
right.
went to school together. We worked
right.
together.
But you know what? It doesn't have to be this one perfect person. They just have to be your perfect person. The universe could be like, but Jarrod, your actual legitimate soulmate lives over in India. And it's like, well, you know what? I'm not in India. Universe.
Look, I'm not trying to move.
Like, bite me. I got Samantha, and she's the best, and I love her, and she's my wife. So piss off.
Yes, that's how it should be. Dang, dude, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I can talk.
So can I, obviously. Jesus. Tell people about your podcast and all that.
You can find my podcast at lifesabinge.com. We're on all social media at lifesabinge. And then, so my vlog that I used to do, it's still there on YouTube. It's called My Day in 5 Minutes. So check those out as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Courtney.
Thank you, Jarrod. That's it for this one, people. Hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to follow me on the socials at Courtney Diamond for updates, and head over to CourtneyDiamond.com to check out the blog. If you've enjoyed this episode, subscribe and maybe leave a nice rating or comment on iTunes. I would very much appreciate it. Hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.